What if I told you that just a few centuries ago, surviving an illness often meant begging for pain? No anesthesia, no sterilization, no real understanding of the human body. And yet, some people lived, others died screaming. From drilling holes into skulls to injecting mercury into open wounds, history is overflowing with treatments so painful they sound like torture. And here's the twist. Many were performed by respected doctors. Today, we're diving deep into the darkest corners of ancient medicine, where pain wasn't just part of the process, it was the process. But before we begin, make sure you like the video and subscribe to see more videos like this one. These are just some of the many shocking truths history tried to bury. Let's begin. It sounds like something from a horror movie, but trepanation is very real and very old. This gruesome practice involved drilling or scraping a hole into the human skull without anesthesia. Why? Ancient healers believed it could release evil spirits, or cure seizures, or relieve pressure in the head after injury. The oldest known trepanned skulls date back over 7,000 years, that's right. Prehistoric surgeons using stone tools, carving into bone while the patient was awake. Incredibly, some patients survived. Skulls show signs of healing, meaning the pain didn't kill them. The infection probably did later, but imagine the moment itself. The sound of stone grinding against bone, the pressure, the helplessness, the pain beyond pain. Trepanation wasn't just practiced in one place. It spanned ancient Peru, Egypt, Greece, even medieval Europe. Some cultures even believed the hole allowed light or soul to enter or exit. It was spiritual, it was experimental, it was terrifying, and yes, it's still occasionally performed today in some underground medical circles. Though modern doctors condemn it, there are people who still believe opening the skull brings enlightenment. This next treatment wasn't meant to heal. It was punishment disguised as medicine, and it might be the most sadistic death method ever recorded. Scaphism, also known as the boats, was an ancient Persian technique. Victims were placed between two hollowed-out logs or boats. Their arms, legs and head left exposed. Then came the honey. They were force-fed milk and honey until they couldn't move. Their bodies smeared with more honey, especially in certain areas, to attract insects. Then they were floated in a swamp under the blistering sun, completely alive. Days passed, the milk caused violent diarrhea inside the boat. The honey drew swarms of flies, beetles and maggots. Bugs burrowed into the flesh, laid eggs. The body slowly became a hive. Victims didn't die fast. Historical reports say they remained alive for a week or more, slowly consumed by rot and insects. While not a medical treatment in the conventional sense, some ancient cultures claimed this form of punishment helped purge evil from a traitor's soul, a twisted spiritual cleanse. And if that wasn't enough, witnesses were often forced to watch, to ensure the community knew what happened to those who defied tradition. Scaphism wasn't about justice, it was about control. And it remains one of the most gruesome rituals ever practiced in the name of purification. Today, mercury is known as a toxic heavy metal. It damages the brain. It corrodes internal organs. It's a poison. But for centuries, mercury was considered a miracle cure. From ancient China to medieval Europe, this shimmering liquid was used to treat everything from syphilis to parasites, skin conditions, and even longevity. The Chinese Emperor Qin Shi Huang, obsessed with immortality, regularly consumed mercury pills created by alchemists. He died young, violently ill, his organs likely liquefied from within. The irony, he wanted to live forever. In 15th century Europe, mercury became the go-to cure for syphilis. Doctors would rub it into open sores, apply mercury ointments, or even boil it into steam baths so patients could inhale the vapor. Symptoms: drooling, lung damage, insanity, death. But since syphilis sometimes improved before the mercury killed you, people assumed it worked, and the practice spread. Mercury was also used in ancient India and Egypt, where it was sometimes mixed with other metals and injected into the skin to balance the body's elements. It was seen as divine, powerful, pure. But in truth, it destroyed people from the inside out. Teeth fell out, hands shook, minds fractured, and all the while patients thanked their doctors. It's a haunting reminder of how blind trust in medicine without understanding can become more dangerous than the disease itself. Imagine going to the doctor with a headache, and their solution is to drain you like a wine barrel. That's bloodletting. For over 2,000 years, doctors across Europe, the Middle East and Asia believed most illnesses were caused by an imbalance of the four humours: blood, phlegm, black bile and yellow bile. Too much blood? Easy fix, bleed it out. Doctors used sharp knives, special lances or even leeches to draw out your lifeblood, sometimes a pint, sometimes a quart, sometimes even more. The idea was that removing blood would balance your body and restore health. And if it didn't work, it just meant they didn't remove enough. Patients were bled for everything: fevers, epilepsy, acne, pneumonia, smallpox. Some were already weak when treatment began, and after it, too weak to stand. Some didn't survive the treatment at all. The famous American statesman George Washington died after being bled of nearly 40% of his blood, all within a single day. His throat was sore, now he was dead, and yet for centuries bloodletting was the gold standard. Doctors believed the red flow meant toxins were leaving the body. They didn't know they were draining life itself. Ironically, in rare cases, like high blood pressure, it did relieve symptoms temporarily. But in most cases it simply left people dizzy, cold or worse. Today, bloodletting is mostly gone, but a small trace remains. Blood donations still help with conditions like hemochromatosis. The difference? Now we understand why it works. Back then, it was just a ritual, a dangerous one. Toothache today? You get numbed, cleaned, maybe a filling. Toothache 2,000 years ago? Brace yourself, you're about to be yanked into history, literally. Ancient dentistry was brutal. There was no anesthesia, no Novocaine, no delicate instruments. If a tooth was decayed, infected or even slightly loose, the answer was simple: pull it out, forcefully, with metal, wood or fingers. The earliest known dental tools date back to 7000 BC in the Indus Valley. They used bow drills, yes, drills, spun with string to grind into teeth. No sedation, just screaming. In ancient Rome, wealthy citizens had access to tooth doctors who might use gold wire to bind teeth together. Crude orthodontics, but if a tooth had to go, it went fast. Sometimes with a hammer. The Chinese used arsenic compounds to numb the pain, but arsenic is toxic and patients sometimes died of poisoning before their tooth could even be treated. In medieval Europe, barbers, yes barbers, also doubled as dentists. They'd slice open abscesses, remove molars and dig into gums while your arms were tied down. And let's not forget toothworms, a widely believed myth. Ancients thought cavities were caused by tiny worms burrowing into your teeth. So they'd burn herbs near the tooth to smoke the worm out. All it did was set your face on fire. Still not wincing? Consider this. Dental surgery continued without anesthesia well into the 1800s. For most of history, dentistry was pain, and survival was never guaranteed. What if your doctor told you the cure was setting your skin on fire? Welcome to moxibustion, an ancient practice rooted in traditional Chinese medicine. It involves burning dried mugwort, called moxa, directly on or near your skin, right over key energy points. The goal? To stimulate the flow of qi, your body's life energy, and balance your internal organs. In practice, it meant extreme heat, burning flesh, and in some cases, permanent scars. There were two primary forms: direct moxibustion, where the burning moxa was placed directly on the skin until it scorched, and indirect moxibustion, where it hovered just above, still blistering hot. It was used to treat everything: arthritis, digestion problems, menstrual pain, fatigue, and more. And if you cried from the burning, that meant it was working. In some regions, children with chronic illness were treated with daily moxibustion, their bodies covered in soot and scars, a ritual of pain repeated over and over. The smell of burning herbs filled ancient clinics, skin blistered, nerves flared, but hope burned just as fiercely. Even today, moxibustion is still practiced, though now more safely, often without direct contact. But centuries ago, scorching your body wasn't just accepted, it was encouraged, because pain, they believed, was the proof of healing. Imagine being poisoned, and your doctor hands you a rock. Not just any rock, a slimy, crusted mass extracted from the stomach of a goat. This is a bezoar stone, and for centuries it was believed to be the ultimate antidote. Bezoars are real. They're hardened clumps of undigested material, often made of hair, plants or minerals that form in the stomachs of animals, kind of like a biological hairball. In ancient Persia, India and later Europe, these stones were thought to possess magical detoxifying powers. The logic? If it could survive the poisons inside an animal, surely it could draw the poison out of a human. Kings and emperors paid fortunes for them. They were mounted into jewels, worn as necklaces or dipped into drinks to cleanse anything toxic. The French king Charles VII had a bezoar in his royal medical cabinet. And in the 16th century, a surgeon named Ambroise Paré tested one by poisoning a prisoner and then giving him a bezoar to save him. The prisoner died, but the legend lived on. Bezoars were also used to treat epilepsy, plague, and even the bite of a mad dog. Doctors prescribed them as ground-up powders, worn as amulets, or stirred into broths. They weren't cheap either. One bezoar could cost as much as a small estate, and the irony? Sometimes they were contaminated, carrying bacteria or parasites from the animal's gut, which made people sicker. But the belief in their power endured. Why? Because in a time without antidotes, a mysterious stone from deep inside a goat felt like a gift from the gods. Today, surgery is sterile, controlled, and mostly painless. But rewind just 200 years, and surgery was a race against screaming. Before anesthesia became common in the mid-1800s, operations had to be performed as fast as possible. The patient was wide awake, often screaming, thrashing, or even biting through leather straps. Surgeons prized themselves on speed, not precision. Amputating a leg in under 3 minutes was considered excellent, not just for the patient, but for the crowd. Yes, crowds. Surgery was often done in public theatres where people gathered to watch. The sounds of sawing, the smell of burning flesh from cauterization, the raw panic in the patient's eyes. The Scottish surgeon Robert Liston was legendary for speed. He once performed an amputation in under 30 seconds, accidentally severing 2 of his assistant's fingers in the process. Both the patient and assistant died from infection. Before ether and chloroform, pain wasn't a side effect, it was a necessary evil. Opium was sometimes given to dull awareness, but it wasn't reliable. Some cultures used alcohol, others used nothing at all. And if you survived the pain, you still had to survive the infection. Tools weren't sterilized, hands weren't washed. The word bacteria hadn't even been discovered yet. Surgeons operated in blood-soaked coats, proud of the stains like badges of honor. Today, we fear going under the knife. Back then, people feared staying awake. The next time you're in a modern hospital, remember this. Every beep of a monitor, every sterile glove, every soft-spoken nurse is the result of thousands of years of trial by fire. Human beings have always fought for life, But in the past, the tools were crude, the pain was unrelenting, and belief, not science, was often the best medicine they had. So ask yourself, how many of today's treatments will one day seem just as barbaric? If this glimpse into ancient pain opened your eyes, be sure to subscribe to Pursue Insight. There's a whole world of forgotten knowledge waiting to be rediscovered, and some of it might still hurt.